pressure from Thomas off the edge. Eli Manning stays on his feet, airs it out down the field. It is caught by Tyree. Inside the 25 and a timeout taken. Four-man rush, Eli Manning. Adales Thomas brings down Manning. No gain as Manning got back to the line of scrimmage, and the Giants use their final timeout with 50 seconds remaining. Thomas coming again. This one flutters up and somehow nearly caught by Tyree, who lost it on his way to the ground. It's 3rd and 11. 3rd down and 11. Manning to the sideline, completes. And Steve Smith is out of bounds right at the marker. 39 seconds left. Is willing to jog out to the middle of the field. Again, 1 second is remaining on the scoreboard. The Giants have won the Super Bowl.
You heard it right there. That's from 2007 when the Giants defeated the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 42. You're listening to The Pit Sports Talk with Damien Dennis here on 88.3 WXOU and online at WXOU.org. I'm joined today by Timothy Pontzer and Austin Puckett, and we have an awesome Super Bowl show for you today. And I'm really proud of my intro that I spent about a good hour and a half working on yesterday. And I'm in a good mood today. How are you guys?
Doing pretty good.
All right. Yeah, so we
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Your intro's great, music's great, but Joe Buck
is awful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on that myself. I kind of didn't think about it because I'm just in too much of a good mood now, but
Gus Johnson would have had a heart attack.
Yeah. You know, I put that together, and that was the only call, obviously, from that game.
Giants.
Yeah.
Win the Super Bowl.
Giants win the Super Bowl.
Touchdown.
You know, it killed it for it, but, you know, it was a pretty good intro. It took me a while to put together. The song there was made by Sleeping Awake. My buddy, his name's Lucky. It was his little music project. The song's called Through the Red Door. Pretty good stuff. But like I said, we have a Super Bowl show for you today. We're going to talk everything. Absolutely everything. Patriots, New England Patriots, New York Giants.
Madonna.
Apparently, Tim wants to talk about Madonna.
Prop bets.
But before we can get into that, we're going to cover a little bit of Oakland sports. I'm going to start with Oakland hockey here. Just really briefly, they're playing Game 3 of the Good Luck Duck Series tonight at the Onyx Ice Arena in Rochester Hills. They're facing Davenport. If they win tonight and tomorrow night, they actually bring home the Good Luck Duck for the first time since 2007, which coincidentally was the same year that it was their last year in Division II, and they won Nationals that year. So it's going to be a big victory if they win tonight at home and then can go to Grand Rapids tomorrow and win again. Otherwise, if they split it, you know, they're going to be playing the Game 5. I believe it was February 24th. Might have that date wrong, but they're going to be playing Game 5 if it splits again like last time. They're going to be playing that actually at the Onyx too. So either way, hopefully they don't lose both games tonight. That way we stay in it. But Oakland hockey tonight, Division I, Onyx Ice Arena, $2 for students, $7 for everybody else. Children under 12 or 13 get in for free, so it'll be a good time. It's a good way to go and support your school and the hockey team and get your taste of Oakland hockey. Now, Tim wanted to mention a little bit about Oakland basketball, which is something we should be covering on this. Something we should be probably cover more on this show, but I just don't know enough about basketball half the time to do it.
That's why they call me a senior reporter.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, OU is in the midst of a 2-game losing streak. They dropped at North Dakota State here at the arena, and then they just recently, on the 1st, they lost at IUPUI 79-75. They are finishing up their 2-game road trip tomorrow at Western Illinois at 8 o'clock, and that's somewhere where they have won 10 straight at Western Illinois, and they really need to get on the upswing here. They have 2 more games at home coming up after they come back from their road trip. They're going to play IPFW in Southern Utah, and then they have their ESPN Bracket Buster after that was just announced, where they're going to play Illinois State. And then they're going to finish up with 2 more games, and then the Summit League Championships come up. And right now they have a disappointing 12-13 record. They're not going to have a 20-game winning season for the first time in like 2 years. And it's just kind of disappointing right now with the Oakland basketball faithful. But unfortunately, they're in the midst of this 2-game losing streak, 3 of the last 4. And, they can score a lot, but the defense just isn't there. I mean, they're putting up almost 80, 90 points a game, and but then they just obviously they give up more, and it's we'll see what happens here. But if they can't get it together, I mean, obviously they're going to be in the Summit League tournament, but they're going to have a very low seed. They might be a 6 or 7 seed, and if that happens, you're going to be matched up against probably like a South Dakota State, and I mean that would be a track meet they'd have to win. And obviously Oral Roberts is the best in the league right now, but they just ended their undefeated streak. They had won 20 straight Summit League games, and they had a 13 overall winning streak. But they lost at South Dakota last night, 75-60. So, I mean, it shows that they're beatable. I mean, they obviously, the first game, they took care of OU pretty handily, and then they came back here and we played them pretty well for the first 3 quarters. So we'll see if they can make some noise here in the tournament, because I think that, they have the offense to do it, but they can't keep up.
Now, Tim, just real quick, because obviously we're going to talk mostly Super Bowl for the show, but just real quick, how well do you think Oakland's going to finish out this season? Do you think they'll do well in the tournament? Do you think they'll get to the tournament?
Well, I think that they're going to finish. I mean, right now they're 12-13. I think that they have some winnable games here on their schedule. I think they should go to Western Illinois and win. They've won 10 straight there. I think that should be a game. And then if they take that, they can carry some momentum. I could see them at least getting one of the 2 back here at home with IPFW in Southern Utah. That Illinois State game is a toss-up, and Coach Campy said that he's not going to prepare for it at all until like right before. And they have to travel 7 hours by bus to get there. Unfortunately, despite its name, it's not going to be on TV, and it can only hurt OU more than it can help them. Those bracket buster games are made for bubble teams and to help your RPI. They have similar RPI, that's where they're matched up, but OU, I mean, they really don't gain anything from it, and they have to go all the way out there in the middle of conference play, because then they have to come back and they have to play UMKC in South Dakota. I think they should beat UMKC handily. They could probably take care of South Dakota, finish it out, but they'd have a winning record. They need to finish with a winning record, but so what if they finish, right now they're 12-13, they'll finish with 15-16 wins, and then they'll go into the Summit League Championship with maybe a 5-6 seed, and I mean, then they're going to be playing like a South Dakota State probably or someone like that nature, and they could beat them, but I don't think they're going to win the tournament. I still think Oral Roberts is the team to beat, and then they could get an invite to the College Insider one or the NIT, but they probably wouldn't accept either of those. So unfortunately, they probably won't have any postseason appearance.
That's a shame for Oakland
it
there,
is.
But. We all kind of expected that after Keto and Will Hudson left last year. So
quick update on Keith Benson. He had a double-double last night in the D League. He had 27 points one game, and now he has a double-double. So it's looking good for him. Hopefully,
maybe the Hawks were wrong.
Hopefully, he can get a call-up soon. That'd be nice.
I could see that in his future. He's been proving himself. He's only been on the team for about a week now, right?
He's 3 games.
3 games, yep. So and he's been putting up numbers there for him. But got to transition into the biggest game of the year, really. Super Bowl this weekend, Sunday. How do you guys feel about it? Let's start with that. How do you guys feel about it? Austin, you haven't said anything yet. How do you feel about this game?
I think that it's going to be a pretty close game. I think it's going to be very comparable to the last Super Bowl that the teams played. I think that the Giants kind of have the Patriots' number right now. They already went in this season and beat them in Foxborough, and I think that not that winning in the Super Bowl is going to be an easier thing, but it's always easier to beat somebody on a neutral field when compared to their home field. And I think that the Giants possess a certain skill set that not many other teams possess, which is a ferocious defensive line. And I think that's the way that you beat the Patriots, is by getting to Brady and throwing him off. And I think that the Giants can do that better than almost any other team in the NFL.
Except the Lions.
Well, we know Tim's thoughts there. He's apparently wishing the Lions were in there.
No, I think it's going to come down to the final 2 minutes, and Peyton Manning's going to rise from the grave.
Peyton Manning?
Yep.
How you clarify that for me. What do you mean by that?
It's going to come back.
It's
It's his own field.
It's the house that Peyton built.
So he's just going to join one of the two teams?
Take Eli's spot.
Nah, because all right, I get it now. I was a little bit scared actually as to where you were going with that.
No, I think that this game is it's a kind of a pick 'em. Right now, it's at 2.5 favoring New England, and you look at New England's defense, statistically the worst in the league. But then you look, and they obviously have a guy in Tom Brady, who is arguably the best quarterback to ever play, and you can't beat that. It's tough. And you look at the Patriots as a team that obviously relies on Brady, and what they're going to have to do is they're just going to have to. Brady can't make a mistake. And you look at especially I look back at that AFC Championship game against Baltimore, and they barely edged it out. And that defense did make some plays there at the end. But I think in this game that the Giants have a much better receiving core and quarterback than the Ravens do. And I think Manning is going to have a field day against that Patriots secondary. However, I think that Brady, is he better than Eli? I think he is, obviously. But I think that he's going to have to make the plays on his side because he doesn't have an Ahmad Bradshaw or a Brandon Jacobs or even like a Victor Cruz. He has, and right now his top target, especially in the red zone, Gronkowski, is going to be hobbled around. Maybe he'll play, maybe he won't. He probably will play, but he's probably going to be largely ineffective. He'll just be a decoy mostly.
Yep.
And so it'll be interesting to see if Brady can step up on that big stage once again and beat the Giants.
Now, I got a question for both of you. Before we continue, did you guys think at some point this season, whether it even been the playoffs or week 1, did you think we'd be seeing New England and New York in the Super Bowl this year? Especially with all the hype that was around, the Packers and the Saints were doing. They were pretty hot. We all kind of assumed it would have been pretty much either the Steelers or the Patriots in the Super Bowl for the AFC.
Right.
But on the NFC side, the Giants was it was kind of like a shot in the dark, really.
I think that the Patriots, when you look at the AFC, the Patriots always have a shot because of what they've done in the past. But when you looked at the NFC, you had the powerhouses in New Orleans with Drew Brees. You had Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. You had outstanding quarterback play. And most people didn't think Eli could get it done. And that makes it even more impressive that the Giants have gotten there. In Week 15, they were 7-7. I think already passed their bye week. And they're 7-7. They have losses to the Seattle Seahawks and Washington Redskins twice. For them, you didn't even know if they were going to make the playoffs. And they end the season with the win against the Cowboys that gets them in. And they just got hot at the right time. That's how they got there. You would have never thought they would have.
Absolutely. I think I could definitely see New England. New England, they're always there. However, the Giants came as a surprise. I was thinking maybe the Saints. The Packers, they were going undefeated for a while, finished 15-1. I didn't like them as much. I thought that they were going to slip up in the playoffs.
Slip up? They didn't do anything in the playoffs.
I know, that's what I'm saying. But even before
especially
then,
losing at home,
when they were the number 1 seed, I didn't like the 49ers because of Alex Smith. And even though they had a amazing defense, I didn't think they would. But I did like the Saints. I liked the Saints a lot. And even a team like you had teams in the NFC, because if you look in the past 10 years, right? You've had a different team from the NFC every year. It's always kind of like a surprise. They come up, and then from the AFC, in the past 10 years, it's either been Brady, Peyton Manning, or Roethlisberger. Those are the three like premier teams, not only in the NFC but kind of the league. You know, they always have to beat each other to take the AFC spot. So you have Peyton Manning go down this year. The Colts are awful. So it's either, you have Pittsburgh and you have New England. Baltimore was there for a little bit, but they were very inconsistent this year. So I really did. I thought it was going to be one of the two. And then Pittsburgh, they got beat up at the end, and they weren't the team that they were midway through the season. I really did like New England. The Giants, though, you look at the Giants' schedule. I mean, from weeks 10 to 13, they lost 4 in a row right there. They lost every game. They lose at San Francisco, against Philadelphia, against New Orleans, against Green Bay. Those are some of the best teams in the NFC. Even Philadelphia Philadelphia played them really well. They barely edged out Philadelphia in week 3, but Philadelphia, they had that dream team this year coming out of the NFC East. That NFC East, they emerged from that. You had the Cowboys, you had the Giants, and you have the Eagles, that each could have had a chance to win there at the end. Even the Eagles, after they had that awful start to their season. So the Giants definitely came as a surprise. If you were to, especially at the start of the playoffs, I would have picked the Patriots and the Saints because I really like Drew Brees' play. But I think the fact that Drew Brees and the Saints were not able to get that home field advantage really hurt them because when they play inside that Superdome, inside on that fast turf track, they're able to, they can beat anybody. So
yeah, no, I agree with both of you actually. I kind of figured that New England would be there. It'd be New England or the Steelers.
Yep.
Like you said, Tim, these are two teams that have pretty much been there virtually almost every year for the AFC.
Yes, absolutely.
But like you also said, every year there's a new NFC team that's in there.
This is the first year
in the last 11.
Right, that it's been a repeat.
Yeah. And I'm happy with the matchup. You know that, Tim. I'm happy with it, but the Giants coming in there was a complete shock. I agree with you. I thought the Saints were Packers. Now, I did think the same thing. The Packers would slip up. They had just a horrendous defense all year. I knew that was going to come back to bite them, and it bit them hard. But, just the Giants, I'm happy with it. But, they were 7-7 in week 15. And out of nowhere, they make it to the Super Bowl which is funny because remember there was all that talk about head coach Coughlin being
fired.
Yeah, he's going to get fired. They hadn't even had a playoff win since
the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah, since Super Bowl 42.
They hadn't been in the playoffs.
Yeah. So everyone was all up in arms, and apparently
if you look at their schedule, I'm looking at it right now, and they're losing.
They lost twice to Kansas City.
Who? The Giants?
Yeah.
No. To Washington.
Yeah, Washington. Sorry.
They
get those two mixed up.
They lose to Washington. They have a loss there to Seattle, and it's amazing that they come in, but like you said, they got hot at the right time. They really did.
Yeah.
Those weeks 16 and 17 were playoff games for them. I know it's a little cliche when people say that, but they had to beat the Jets, and that was a huge game. Obviously, both New York teams in the same market, playing at their stadium, obviously, and they were able to beat Sanchez, and then they go to Dallas, that Sunday night game, winning you're in, and they were able to beat Roma, and they beat them pretty handily. But they got hot at the right time. It is amazing that they were able to. And what's funny is the Patriots are favored, but if you ask a lot of people, they'll say they pick the Giants. And the Giants, you asked even a couple weeks ago before before the playoffs started, people didn't even think they were going to be in the playoffs. So it is interesting to see.
Now, here's something that I got from ESPN. The head-to-head matchups between these two teams, the series since 2003, regular season 2003, is tied 2-2. New England beat New York on October 12th in 2003, 17-6.
That was before Eli was even the quarterback.
Yep. And in 2007, at the end of the regular season, New England beat them.
Remember that game?
38-35.
Correct.
Game. Randy Moss had like 3 touchdowns.
Yep. And then a few weeks later, in the Super Bowl, we just heard it in the intro. Eli Manning pulled out an amazing drive, him and his team, and won 17-14. And now, just earlier this season, actually, Patriots are on a 10-game winning streak right now.
It is.
And their last loss was on November 6th, 24-20 against the Giants.
Right. That was they kind of had a hiccup there in the middle of their season. They came off their bye week. They had only had one loss on their resume, which was at Buffalo. When Buffalo had that surprising 5-0 start.
Yep.
Them and the Lions were the talk of the NFL. And they lost 34-31 in Buffalo. But they had reeled off 5 of 6 wins. They go into their bye week. They come out. They go to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh beats them. And then they go to New York, and New York beats, or they play against New York in
Foxborough.
In Foxborough, and then they've won since. They haven't, and that's teams say the Giants get hot, right? They say, oh yeah, that's why I agree with that. But yeah, they've won 10 in a row, and it's hard to pick against a team like that when you just they haven't lost, like you say, since November.
Now, like you said though, they're pretty much under Eli. The Giants have only lost to the Patriots once.
Under Eli.
Yeah. So, they've only played 3 times since Eli came into the Giants franchise, but, that still speaks volumes for going up against the Patriots. This is the Belichick-Brady combo. That's
Absolutely.
the most winningest combo in terms of head coach and quarterback ever.
Absolutely. Well, and I think if you look since Eli came in the league, he came in the league with that draft class with Roethlisberger and Phillip Rivers. And he was drafted number 1 overall, right? And the San Diego wanted him, and he goes to New York. And that whole debacle.
Phillip Rivers.
I think that it's he's definitely improved by leaps and bounds. And he was awful when he first came in the league. Awful. And, Kurt Warner and him were on the same team there. And Kurt Warner was the starter, and Eli takes, and then Kurt Warner would take it back. And now Eli Manning is playing with just a tremendous amount of confidence. And when you have Brady always plays with that, right? Brady always thinks he can win. But now Eli, he has that same confidence. And that's tough to it's tough to get in a quarterback. And then once the quarterback is, it's tough to beat him. And I think that Eli Manning, he's amazed me this year. He's led countless come-from-behind drives. He led that one in New England, right? And he rallies his team. And he has a pretty good running game. He has a pretty good defense. He's had some receivers step up this year. But Eli Manning, he's having his best year this year, and he's becoming one of those elite quarterbacks. And I think it comes from that confidence that he knows he can win.
Yep. Now, we got to go to a break here in a moment. But when we come back, we're going to break down some of these stats. We're going to break down where these teams rank in terms of defense, offense, passing yards, all this. We know Brady's going to obviously be the better of the quarterback, but Eli's actually not too far behind him.
Right.
So we'll get into all that here after the break. You're listening to the Pitt Sports Talk on WXOU 88.3 Auburn Hills. And welcome back to the Pit here on 88.3 WXOU, Auburn Hills. I'm Damien Dennis, joined by Austin and Tim, here with pretty much the most epic Super Bowl show ever. I'm gonna throw that out there. You guys agree?
Is that music done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, I could have kept it going. It's about a minute and a half long.
Yeah, did the Bruins just score or something? Did Nomar just hit a home run?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, back to the show.
New England's about to win the Super Bowl, so.
Oh, it's your pick. Yes.
Right. Nah, not yet.
A little early there.
Just saying, if they win, it'll be fitting,
Would be, I guess.
So, we should talk a little bit about Super Bowl 42 before we continue. Well, we should get through it pretty quickly, though. I liked your idea. We discussed this over the break. We're going to talk about what each team needs to do to win. And I think my two guests here are probably pretty well in the know on that part there.
Fair enough.
All right. Like I said before, the Giants, I think the key to beating the Patriots is getting pressure on Brady. You got to throw him off
Well, there's a thing about Brady is if you hit him, it throws him off.
Exactly.
You hit him once, he's off his game all night.
Yep.
You got to hit him hard, but
Agree.
And the Giants have the players to do that. Jason Pierre-Paul, Justin Tuck, all those guys. They can get around the edge. They can get through the middle. They can get to him. And the Patriots' offensive line needs to be ready for that because they can throw the blitzes. Greg Jones through the middle.
Okay.
no.
Matthias Kaiwanaka.
The New England offense is actually pretty good though in that respect.
Right.
So
they are. It's a good matchup, really.
Yeah, that's a great matchup. And, that I think the only way that matchup there could be better is if it was Patriots offense against the Saints defense.
The Saints defense?
Yeah.
You mean their pass rush?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well,
you could say
Sean Rodgers there.
Yeah, you could say the Lions pass rush.
No, I don't give credit to the Lions ever.
Okay.
I like New Orleans.
Great preseason game.
Yeah. I like New Orleans.
I think if it was that New Orleans New England matchup, it would be much more of a shootout. I don't think that either team scores more than 24 points
in this game this Sunday.
I don't think so. I think that a lot of people are looking at Brady and Manning. He says that I agree that the front four, if they can get to Brady, they should win, and if they can't, then Brady should pick them apart. I think what it's going to come down to is time of possession and turnovers. I think those are the two most important stats in football.
No,
and I think that in order to beat New England, you have to keep Brady off the field.
Oh yeah.
If you look at the New Orleans' worst loss of the season, right, is against obviously my Steelers, right? The Steelers, that was probably their best game they played this season for the Steelers. And the time of possession in that game was 40 minutes to 20 minutes. It was 40 to 20. They had the Steelers had the ball for 39 minutes and 22 seconds. The Patriots 20 minutes. And when you can keep the ball out of Brady's hands, you can be. I mean, what I think that the way the Giants can do that is, even though they have only rushed, they've had one individual rusher go over 100 yards twice this season. They have a combo with Ahmad Bradshaw and Brandon Jacobs. And I think that they could pound the ball in there. Now, the Patriots do have Vince Wilfork, a phenomenal run stuffer, but I think that they could, if they keep the ball out of Brady's hands, I think they should be able to win.
Yep. Now, to continue with that, I think the Giants, in terms of offense, they need to pass a lot, pretty much. I mean, let's put it simply. They need to pass a lot because we all know that New England's secondary is next to the weakest in the entire league.
Right.
So, and Eli is not far behind Brady and Breeze and Stafford and everybody in terms of passing, completions, and everything. So people don't give Eli Manning enough credit. He is a great quarterback. The thing with Eli is, I don't even know how to say it really. He's got 4,933 yards in the regular season.
67 short of 5,000.
Yep. And he's up there in that upper tier.
I agree. But always the knock against him is that they all still lose, right? He has two playoff trips.
That have gotten him to the Super Bowl.
Right. He's a big game quarterback.
And you know what? Come to think of it, last year, I remember sitting at home watching, I don't know if it was maybe like, it was before the final game of the season or maybe afterwards, and I was angry because the Giants had a winning season, better than this year's season, their record, and they weren't in the playoffs, and I remember sitting there like,
well, that's
how
usually that NFC East is one of the toughest divisions in football.
I think
it's one of the better ones in the NFC, and you have the Eagles who, have played. They usually would get the ticket out of there. You have the Cowboys who will play well enough to beat the other teams in the division, but not necessarily make the playoffs. And then you have the Redskins who will play awful like for most of the season, but they're able to beat teams such as them beating New York twice this season. So I agree that Manning is going to have to throw, but the thing is Brady's going to be able to match that. When you look at Manning, and he's only thrown over 300 yards or 5 times this season, but then you have Brady, who's only thrown under 300 yards 3 times this season, and he's thrown for 517, 423, 357. He can put it up, easily. That's his game. So I think that Brady could control that. If you start trying to get in like a track meet or a shootout trying to match, I think Brady beats him. That's why I think they have to control the ball. They have to have long sustaining drives, keep the ball out of Brady's hands, and you can't turn the ball over.
Exactly. And, the Giants, I think the Giants have to stay calm. I've seen that that footage that I got that audio from for the intro to the show today, they actually had a lot of dropped passes and overthrown passes and everything that last 2 minutes.
Manning was not near as accurate as he was this year. Amani Toomer, a former Giants receiver, he was this week at Super Bowl Media Week. He was quoted as saying, "We had to be acrobats to catch the ball that season." And it's easy. It's funny to hear that because Manning, he would throw the ball all over the place.
Yep.
But now, he's dropping the ball right where it needs to be. You look at that NFC Championship game, driving rain and wind, and Alex Smith couldn't throw the ball more than 10 yards, and Manning was putting the ball all over the yard, exactly where it needed to be.
Even in overtime.
Absolutely. But, he was doing it in terrible conditions, and he's putting the ball right on the numbers. And I was very impressed by that.
I really think, though, that I know you said before that, Tim, that you think that Brady would win in a shootout. But I think that's interesting because the Patriots' secondary has struggled so much this year. I think I would almost give the edge to Manning in that circumstance.
I agree, and I think that he has better receivers.
Right.
And I think that their secondary is better, but I think if you match him up quarterback to quarterback, I still think that Brady would be able to throw better than Eli.
And you think that outdoes the weapons that
I do.
Eli
I do.
has
I think that
Brady?
Brady is just that much better than Eli.
I don't know because I think that the last two playoff games that Eli's played in, he's had over 300 yards. Granted, those are the first two 300-yard playoff games that he's had in his career.
Agree.
But he does only have those 2 trips in the postseason, both ending in Super Bowl appearances. However, I think that he's hot just like the rest of the Giants are right now, and I think that I might take Eli in a shootout right now.
I agree, and he definitely looks. Eli looks for Cruz. You look at Cruz. Cruz has led the team in receiving yards in the regular season but 5 times when either Nix or Manningham did. And Cruz, he came out of nowhere. He's catching 157, 163 yards in a game, and people are like, where did that come from? But then you have Brady. He has all these people. He has Welker, Branch, Gronkowski, Hernandez. He can have anybody lead. He can have a tight end lead your team in yardage for receivers because he can spread the ball out much better than Manning can.
Brady has the ability to turn all of his pieces into weapons.
Absolutely. I think
true.
that
he makes all of his players better.
Him and Peyton Manning are the 2 best to ever do that. And when you can take a receiver and turn them into something even better, I think that Brady can absolutely do that. And he throws for 517 yards in a game, and Welker only has 160. So he has to get the yardage from other people. He has Deion Branch, who's washed up. He has no speed. You have a guy like, Ocho Cinco doesn't play much, but you have Hernandez, Gronkowski. Brady's excellent at throwing the ball out of the backfield to his running backs, and it's impressive because he has not had a running back. He's only had a running back go over 100 yards once this season in Green Ellis against the Jets, while Manning is able to give that ball to Bradshaw and Jacobs all the time to pound the ball.
I think it's interesting, though, when you just mentioned Brandon Jacobs and also the Patriots running back Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. Ben Jarvis Green Ellis has never fumbled the ball in a playoff game. And I think that's interesting, leading back to your last point about the turnovers in the game. Mm-hmm. Jacobs has fumble problems, and he has his whole career. That's a very interesting thing to point out, is that the Giants have a lot more risk in the turnover department than the New England is, because you can hand the ball off for New England and pretty much trust that he's not going to put it on the ground.
And at the same time with the turnover thing is Brady can throw it and he can get his ball to his target.
Yeah.
You have virtually no risk of a fumble or an interception. There's still a risk because it's not going to be perfect.
We saw that versus the Ravens, but he pointed out to the owner, he said, I'm going to play better.
He does, and that is what Brady is fantastic, that he is able to he doesn't make stupid decisions. He knows where to put the ball, and if it's not there, he'll go somewhere else. He never forces anything. And that's why Brady is just on a different level. Manning has some Victor Cruz has obviously stepped up, but he has Hakeem Nicks, Mari Manningham. Brady has tight ends that he'll get 150 yards in a game because he's able to set them up. And a tight end doesn't go on a deep route. He has to set them up. I'm so impressed with that, and that's when Brady had Randy Moss that one year when they went to the Super Bowl. He set records with him because he actually had a elite wide receiver to throw to.
Right.
Yep.
So I think that it's interesting. Brady only went under 200 yards once, and that was in that Steeler game. He threw for 198, and that's what I think. I think you have to keep Brady off the field in order to win the game.
It's a good game plan, really. We've said you hit Brady, shake him up.
Yep.
He can't throw. Get him out of the game in some way. Keep him off the field. Or
I don't think they're going to injure him.
I know what you're getting at, but You just want to
Otherwise, Brian
keep
Hoyer
the ball.
would have to come in.
Yeah,
That's right.
keep the ball out of his hands, like you've said.
I think that's how when you play an elite quarterback, that's how you have to beat him. And whether I think that
the
they have running
ability
backs that can do that, but Manning's going to have to make those throws in order to do that. And I think he'll be able to do that against the secondary, but I think they need to pound the ball with Bradshaw and Jacobs.
See,
it's impressive.
You could be the Giants and have the best secondary in the league, and Brady is still going to be able to run up numbers on you.
Absolutely.
Right, but if the thing is that if they don't blitz, they can drop 7, and that is so much more difficult to pass against. If you rush 4, you could still get pressure, and you drop 7, you can run a zone, and you can cover pretty much everything.
It's true. So I think it comes down to the turnovers and time of possession.
Yeah.
Whoever leads in those two categories will win the game.
Now, everybody knows I'm basically a Patriots mark. I'm having some qualms about picking it for this game. We're gonna get the picks for each of us here in about 10 minutes or so. But there's just something about we talk a lot about how the Patriots don't have an elite defense, which is funny because we all know Belichick's supposed to be this defensive-minded guy.
Yep.
But we've talked about that. And the thing is that even though the Patriots give up a lot of yards, I think we talked about this the first week I had you actually on, Tim. They only allow 18 points a game.
Yep. They do. It's because they just similar to the Packers defense this season. They are able to come up with key turnovers when they need them. You look at you can have the best secondary in the league. You look at the Steelers secondary. They were the number 1 secondary this year in terms of yards allowed. They were fantastic in that. They wouldn't give up a lot of yards. They only gave up a 300-yard passer twice, but they couldn't force a turnover to save their lives. You can limit the yards all you want, but if you can't get the ball back and then get better field position, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And the Packers would give up all these yards, but then they led the league in turnovers, right? But second to the 49ers. So when you have a defense that can do that, that trumps all the yards. You can give up a 99-yard drive, but then if you pick it right there, you get the ball back, so it doesn't matter.
They bend, but they don't break. They never. I mean, well, they do obviously, but you can let up big plays as long as you make a big play yourself, and that's what the Patriots do. They have defensive backs that, I mean, I don't even think I could name a defensive back on the Patriots. They're just no names, but they have players that step up and they'll make picks or fumbles or something, and they will get the ball back to Tom Brady.
Now, here's something that I find interesting about this game. Granted, New England's going in with what is technically home field advantage in a sense. They're supposed to be the home team in this game.
Technically, I don't think it matters.
No, it doesn't. But here's the point I'm getting at.
Okay.
Eli's coming in, and obviously, his brother is Peyton Manning. It's almost like, in a sense, it could be like a home game for him. Now, that's not going to be a perfect home game. It's not going to be like they're playing in New York because he's still in Indianapolis. But you already know Peyton Manning's going to be somewhere in that building. All these. I mean, I guess they're not all going to be Colts fans at this game. That'd be a pretty ridiculous statement to say. But there's going to be a lot of people rooting in these stands that aren't going to be Giants fans or Patriots fans rooting for the Giants because they may be Colts fans.
Right, and even not that they are rooting for Eli, but they just hate the Patriots.
Yeah.
As that's a very well-known fact.
That's it. So it's just it's like an atmosphere where Eli can go in and feel comfortable. And I kind of want to say that's why I said it's kind of like home field advantage for him.
In a way, yeah.
I think that ultimately, though, that won't play as big a role as if they were playing in either New York or Foxborough.
Well, if they were playing in Foxborough, though, I'd give it to the Patriots.
I agree. But like Austin said, he said that Eli's a big game quarterback. Obviously, Tom Brady is a big game quarterback.
Yeah.
When you have the chance to get your 4th Super Bowl ring, you're a big time quarterback, and you can step up.
If
in big games.
If anyone have lost that one in 2007, he'd be going for his 5th.
He would absolutely. And when you have Brady, he can step up. Eli's stepping up, especially this season. He's been leading those comebacks. I saw a quote from both the quarterbacks, and it was interesting. Both were asked. They said, "Would you rather have the ball with down by 3 with 2 minutes left, or would you rather be up by 3 and with 2 minutes left and have the other guy have the ball?" And both of them said they'd rather have the ball. I thought that was very interesting that both of them trust each other that they could lead that game-winning drive. I think that ultimately what that place seats 70,000 people. 40,000 of them will be business executives in suits making deals. They don't care about the game.
Right.
Yeah.
And like me and Austin were in Indianapolis last weekend, I saw a lot more Giants fans than I did New England. Now, that was a week before,
Right.
but I don't think that that's going to have as big an issue. I think both will be able, despite whatever the atmosphere is, they'll both be able to step up and make plays.
I just feel like there's going to be something there that's going to give it like a feel for Eli. Make it just a little bit more homier for him, I guess.
Fair enough.
I mean,
it's his brother's stadium, basically.
Yeah, for now.
Right. That's a different issue.
Yeah. But, just looking at New England's track record against Eli Manning, pretty much, since Brady and Eli have both competed against each other since 2007, Patriots have only won once. Now, they've only met 3 times. They only meet once every 4 years unless it's in the playoffs.
Yep.
So, I mean, you don't have a lot to go off of, but these games have been pretty the game that the Patriots won, it was their first meeting with Eli, was close. Last Super Bowl was close. And New England's last loss was close.
Yep. I mean, they're all within 3 or 4 points most of the games.
Yep.
So I don't see how this one would be any different.
I think it ultimately becomes a pick'em game. They're favored by less than a field goal. The Patriots are, and I think that it'll be interesting to see which quarterback can make more plays, which defense can make more plays. Because I think everybody's talking about both the quarterbacks. Obviously, you have 2 elite quarterbacks, but I think that it's going to really come down to those defenses, which can step up and make more plays against and I think it's very interesting. When you look at the Giants' defense, they have some first-round picks there. You have that guy they drafted out of Tennessee at corner this year. They have Phillips at safety. They have some top-flight
Amukamara.
Yeah, Amukamara. They have some top-flight players. Meanwhile, the Patriots have 3 undrafted free agents. They have that guy who broke up the pass on Anquan Boldin. He wasn't playing for him 2 months ago. Belichick is a master at that. 18 of New England's players, which is almost a third of their 53-man roster, were not drafted by an NFL team. He is able to get people that fit his system and put them in there, and they'll make plays. He doesn't need this, top flight guy like an Ed Reed or a Polamalu back there in his secondary.
Right.
He puts people back there that, while people never have heard of them, he can have a guy like Troy Brown play corner and receiver, and he can win 3 Super Bowls.
And they do that right now. Their dime defense features one of their wide receivers playing a cornerback.
Absolutely.
Now, here's something we haven't talked about yet. Gronkowski. I think I saw a tweet earlier today, might have been yesterday, that he returned to practice.
He did.
Now, I'm curious what you guys think. Is he going to have a part for the Patriots in this game?
I think he'll definitely have a part in the game. I think that he's always a threat because of what he's done this season, whether he's injured or not. And for him to just be on the field is threatening to the Giants. I think that he did a press conference the other day, and he was hobbling around out there. Part of that could be an act. You never know with Belichick. He could have told him to do that. You never really know. But I think that to him to even be on the field is a threat, and I think that he could have a touchdown maybe in a very short yardage situation, like on a leak out of the backfield or anything like that. But I don't think he's going to be as effective with him getting the ball on a handoff and things like that they were doing earlier in the year.
Yeah.
I called in last week, and that was one of the big things we talked about was Gronkowski. Then he wasn't playing. He was still in a walking boot. Now he's out of the walking boot. He's practiced 2 straight days, but he's not even running. He's jogging light routes, and I think that he can definitely act as a decoy because, like Puckett said, if he's out there, you have to account for him. You can't just not account for him, obviously. And I think that makes Aaron Hernandez a lot better because then if you they split the safety over on Gronkowski's side, Hernandez can split the opposite side. I think that Brady will definitely look to him if he's out there, but I don't think him getting more than 100 yards. It'd be hard pressed to see him getting more than 50 yards.
Yep.
Right.
It's not an account where you're going to have like Terrell Owens came back from injury, played through injury, and went over 150 yards. That ankle injury, when you have a high ankle sprain like that, that's tough to play through. Very few people can even walk after that. So for him to play at a high level, I don't think that he'll be able to do that. But I definitely think that he could
be effective.
He'll be effective as a decoy at least.
Now, I like what Austin said about maybe Belichick told him to go out there and kind of just, hobble around a little bit and make it look like he's hurt. I find that interesting. I'm going to go back to the intro again for the last time. When I was looking up the video for that, I found the video of Giants players faking injuries on the field. So, I could see these two teams playing Jedi mind tricks with each other, out there.
Belichick is a master at that. He has put, ever since Tom Brady became the starter, Brady has been on their injury report as probable for a shoulder every game. Yep. He is, he's the anti-coach. He wears that hoodie because it's the most ugly thing he could wear. When Reebok said they had to wear stuff, that was his response. He is the most anti-coach, but he's the best coach in the league,
right? Yeah,
without a question. And he has 3 undrafted free agents on there. Half on the defense, half of his or the third of his roster is undrafted. I mean, he gets players. He doesn't need those elite players. He can plug and play anybody, and he can make them work. And now he's going for his 4th Super Bowl reign as the Patriots head coach, and he's one of the best to ever coach.
Absolutely. Now, let's get into our picks here. We've got about 3.5 minutes left.
All right.
Give our picks. Short reason why. Start with you, Puckett.
I think that the Giants' skill set is very much so based around beating the Patriots. I mean, whether it was meant to be designed like that or not, they draft defensive linemen almost every year. Their depth at that position is so deep, and they can rotate those guys, and they can continue to go at it. They can drop 7 in coverage. They can have the linebackers drop, and they can make it difficult for Brady to throw the ball. And I think that the Giants are just going to cut loose, rush Brady. I don't think the Patriots are going to be able to rush the ball, and I think that the Giants get it done. I think it's going to be 24-21 Giants.
I think that as hard as it is to pick against a guy like Tom Brady, who's probably the best player to ever play that position, you look at recent history. You look at the Packers last year. You look at the Giants a couple years ago. You look at the Steelers coming in when they're that 6th seed. Now, the Giants aren't, but when they get hot at the right time, the Giants had to win those last 2 games, while the Patriots have won 10 in a row. The Giants had to win those games. They were like playoff games. They're the hottest team playing professional football right now. Yep. I think that, and that means more than having Belichick or Brady. I think that the Giants are going to win, and I think it's going to be close. It'll be a good game, and I think that the Giants will win by 10 points. Though I think that they'll win 23 to 13 or something. And I think that Eli Manning is going to cement his place as being one of those elite quarterbacks.
Finally.
And I think it's gonna be this interesting blemish on Brady's resume as being the best quarterback to play in his era, but not being able to beat a guy in Eli Manning with the Giants twice.
But he can't beat his older brother.
Exactly. It would be very interesting.
Now, I really want to pick the Patriots, and I'll be rooting for them, but I agree with both of you. The Giants are just hot, and Eli knows how to get it done. He's got weapons in Victor Cruz, Manningham, Nix, and they've got, as long as they don't let the turnovers kill them, I could see them winning. I don't think it's going to be a 10-point win, maybe by a touchdown, something like maybe 24 to, say, 17.
Yep.
But I can't see it more than a touchdown.
I think that Victor Cruz is going to have 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to be saucing in the end zone all night long.
So you're not going to pick your beloved Patriots?
I'll be rooting for him, sort of. I mean, I guess I'll just be sitting there enjoying the game because I love both teams. But I'll be rooting for the Patriots, but I got to go with the Giants. I don't pick on what I like. Right. So, my record's 38-10-3, and most of those picks have not been ones that I picked just because of my favorite teams, for example, like Michigan and Michigan State. I actually chose them both to win, but they kind of irritated me. Oh. I can beat you. Mine's darker. All right. So the 3 of us are going to be back next week to pretty much break down what happens on Sunday.
Is there a game Sunday?
Yeah.
Michigan State, right?
No. Oh.
By the way, I got Spartans.
Yeah. Yeah, who cares? I mean, it's basketball.
Oh, well, had to throw it in there.
It's not. Yeah, go Grizz. All right. I'll do it for this Friday edition of The Pit. We'll see you next week here on 88.3 WXOU, Auburn Hills.